My name is Olivia, and a gloomy, relentless rain has been washing over New York City since this morning. I am standing by the floor-to-ceiling glass window of my top-floor office, inside my ultra-luxurious bridal couture studio right in the heart of Manhattan. I watch the endless, restless hustle of the city below. Outside, there's the blare of traffic, people scurrying under umbrellas, and a sky that has turned a heavy, dark slate. Fat raindrops drum against the glass in a quiet, rhythmic melody, but deep inside my mind and heart, a completely different storm is raging alongside a deafening silence. Behind me, in this sprawling, exquisite studio, rest some of the world's most expensive silks, satins, and authentic laces imported directly from France. Today, my brand, O Claire Couture, commands an exclusive and prestigious reputation across America, and perhaps the world. Elites, celebrities, Hollywood actresses, and affluent families dream of walking down the aisle in a gown designed by my hands. There is a truth in my work, a depth that perhaps flows directly from the agonizing pain of my past into these beautiful garments. But today, in my serene, safe, and dreamlike sanctuary, that very dark past has come knocking. Just outside my office, in my largest and most lavish VIP fitting room, sits a very special client. My staff excitedly informed me this morning that a highly wealthy and influential woman flew in from Boston specifically to commission an exclusive design for her wedding. When I saw her face on the high-resolution security monitor on my desk, it felt as though the ground had been pulled out from under me. The blood froze in my veins. The woman sitting on the velvet sofa was none other than my own older sister, Chloe. 10 long years have passed, but her arrogant face, that toxic smirk she uses to belittle others, and her habit of acting like the center of the universe haven't changed one bit. She is sitting there barking orders at my staff like some reigning queen. She has absolutely no idea that the famous and elusive designer O Claire she is so desperately here to meet is actually her own younger sister, Olivia. The same sister she and my family threw out of their mansion like a bag of trash a decade ago. Watching Chloe arrogantly sip champagne on the monitor, the horrific events of that day 10 years ago started playing out before my eyes like a bitter, terrifying movie. The sprawling estate we lived in, located in Boston's wealthiest neighborhood, was nothing short of a palace. But the truth is, there was never any room for me in that massive house. Chloe was always the golden child, my parents' darling, and the most precious thing in the world to them. Whatever she wanted, no matter how expensive or absurd, she got in the blink of an eye. Growing up, I learned that if Chloe took a liking to anything of mine, a toy, a book, or a favorite dress, my parents would snatch it from my hands without a second thought and hand it to her. They firmly believed that Chloe was infinitely more beautiful and smart than me, and that she was the only one capable of facing this ruthless world. In their eyes, I was just a plain, timid, and naive girl who would never amount to anything. I never fought back against their bitter words. I quietly locked myself away among my books, my sketches, and my sewing machine. I was madly in love with fabrics, designing, and colors. I channeled my suffocating loneliness into needles and thread, weaving my pain into breathtakingly beautiful dresses. When I turned 25, a man came into my life who made me feel loved, and soon we were engaged. It was the happiest moment of my life, or so I thought. I believed I would finally escape that suffocating house and build a world of my own. A home where no one would look down on me, where I would actually matter. As a designer, I proudly decided that I wouldn't let anyone else make my wedding dress. I would design it myself. To me, it wasn't just a piece of fabric. It was a living canvas of all my dreams, my hopes, and a beautiful tomorrow. I sacrificed months of sleep, pouring 6 months of grueling hard work into creating that gown. I ordered a rare, custom lace from France. Enduring the constant prick of needles, I hand-stitched thousands of genuine pearls onto the world's softest silk. Every thread, every pearl was a testament to my years of dedication, my hidden pain, and my true love. When the masterpiece was finally finished, it left anyone who saw it absolutely speechless. Even my parents were stunned that an ordinary girl like me could create such a marvel. But in Chloe's eyes that day, I didn't see admiration. I saw a sick jealousy, a deep-seated hatred. Her ego was eating her alive. She simply couldn't stomach the fact that my wedding dress was far more beautiful than any of her $1,000,000 designer gowns. And then came the darkest, most horrific day of my life. My wedding day. Since morning, the house was packed with guests, buzzing with joy and decorated with flowers. I was sitting in my room, eagerly waiting for this new chapter of my life to begin. A few hours before the main ceremony, I went to the bathroom to take a shower and calm my nerves. My priceless dress, 6 months of my blood, sweat, and tears, was resting safely and lovingly on my bed. When I returned 30 minutes later, the sight in my room made the breath catch in my throat. The room looked like a hurricane had ripped through it, and right in the middle of the floor lay my beautiful, priceless dress, shredded into tiny pieces. Someone had taken a pair of heavy shears and viciously hacked my gown, my entire dream, to shreds. The strings of pearls I had stayed up nights to weave were scattered across the floor, and the pieces of white lace lay there as if someone had ruthlessly crushed my heart. I dropped to my knees on the floor, and a gut-wrenching scream tore from my throat, shaking the entire house. I was clutching the torn scraps to my chest, sobbing uncontrollably, when Chloe casually strolled into my room. There wasn't a single ounce of guilt or sorrow on her face. Instead, she wore a toxic, cold, and deeply satisfied smirk. Putting on a pathetic fake performance, she gasped, covering her mouth, and claimed she just wanted to look at the dress up close, tripped, grabbed it to brace her fall, and accidentally tore it. But even a blind person could look at the straight, clean cuts and know it wasn't an accident. It was the direct result of deep hatred, blinding jealousy, and the deliberate, violent slashes of a pair of scissors. Hearing my heart-stopping screams, my parents, my fiancé, and a few relatives rushed in. Trembling and crying, I looked at my mother and told her Chloe had purposefully destroyed my dress and ruined my life. But what did I get in return? Instead of hugging me, my own father started screaming at me in front of everyone. His heavy voice boomed, declaring that Chloe would never stoop so low, and that I was, as always, making a huge scene over nothing. My mother stepped forward, hugged a fake crying Chloe, patted her, and coldly told me that it was just a piece of fabric, and that I should be ashamed of myself for throwing such a vile accusation at my own older sister. Standing in that room, it felt like someone had driven a jagged dagger into my chest and twisted it. My own flesh and blood chose to blindly believe Chloe's crocodile tears over the blatant truth reflecting in my swollen red eyes. But my breaking point came when the man I was supposed to marry, the man who promised to stand by me for life, sided with my father. Instead of putting a comforting arm around me, he told me to calm down and stop humiliating my sister in front of everyone. The final nail in the coffin happened during the ceremony itself. Chloe emerged from her room wearing a stunning, extravagant white gown, looking exactly like a bride. On my wedding day, she completely usurped my place and my right. The guests in the hall couldn't stop praising her beauty and her dress. Not a single person turned back to look at the actual bride, me, standing in a dark corner of her own home, wearing a plain old dress, silently crying over my ruined hard work, my crushed dreams, and my completely shattered heart. That night, I made an ironclad decision. I finally understood that I never had an identity in that massive house, or among those people, and I never would. I couldn't spend another second suffocating there. The very next morning, Before the sun rose and while the house was still asleep, I packed a few essential clothes, my design books, and my meager savings into a worn-out bag. Without telling a soul, without leaving a single letter, I left that house, that city, and those fake relationships behind forever. With a shattered heart, haunting memories, and empty pockets, I took a long bus ride to New York City. My early days in this vast, unfamiliar metropolis were so terrifying, so lonely, and so grueling that even today, the thought of them makes my soul shiver. I rented a tiny, damp, and pitch-black basement in Brooklyn where the sunlight barely reached. During the day, I did the back-breaking work of scrubbing tables and washing dirty dishes at a small coffee shop. At night, when my body was completely broken, I would sit under the dim yellow bulb of that basement, pedaling away at a rusty, clunky sewing machine. I took on odd jobs for small local tailors for pennies, sometimes just in exchange for a meal. I can't count the number of nights I went to sleep on an empty stomach, drinking only a glass of water. During the freezing New York winters, I didn't even have a proper blanket. I would sleep curled up in layers of my own clothes. But despite it all, a raging fire burned in my chest. I had a stubborn, desperate need to prove myself, a fire that no amount of cold, hunger, or poverty could ever extinguish. Every single day, I honed my craft. My designs had a unique soul to them because they weren't just clothes. They were the deep, unspoken stories of the women who wore them. There was an honesty to my work. Slowly, people in the city started noticing. My blood, sweat, and tears finally paid off, and I opened my own boutique on a very small scale. And today, after 10 years of relentless grind, thousands of tears, and unstoppable hustle, I stand at a pinnacle in New York City where the combined wealth of my entire family falls short of the price of a single design and the respect I command. And now, 10 years later, the same Chloe who left me for dead that night is sitting right in front of me in the luxurious studio I built. I can clearly see on the monitor how rudely and disrespectfully she is speaking to my professional staff. She is yelling at my head assistant, demanding the absolute best, most expensive dress in the world, because she is marrying an American billionaire and money is no object. She keeps snapping her fingers, demanding to see Eau Claire so she can flaunt her fake prestige and status. I looked out the window and took a deep, long breath. All that old fear, that old anxiety, and the inferiority complex that choked me in that Boston house. It's all completely dead now. Turned to ash. I am no longer that scared, timid, weak Olivia whom anyone could easily trample over. I cleared my mind, straightened my posture, opened the heavy door of my office and walked out with firm, unshakable steps. As soon as I walked into the grand fitting room, Chloe, without even looking at me, started throwing her weight around. In a highly arrogant tone, she snapped, "Are you the designer Eau Claire? I want to see your most expensive high-end collections. I don't do ordinary." But the moment she finished her sentence, turned her head, and locked eyes with me, her sharp voice died in her throat. The color drained from her face in an instant, as if she had just seen a terrifying ghost in broad daylight. The expensive champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered on the plush carpet. A heavy, suffocating silence filled the entire room. She just kept staring at me, her eyes wide with shock. She absolutely could not process how the little sister she had tossed out like garbage was now the biggest, richest, and most famous designer in America. Stuttering, her voice trembling, Chloe managed to say, "Olivia, what? What are you doing here? Do you work here?" In a very calm but ice-cold voice, I replied, "I don't work here, Chloe. I am the sole owner of this entire building, this brand, and this company. I am Eau Claire." Hearing this, whatever ground she had left beneath her feet completely gave way. She practically collapsed back onto the sofa. But Chloe was, after all, Chloe. a highly cunning and manipulative woman. In an instant, she changed her colors like a chameleon. Slapping a massive, fake, and plastic smile onto her face, she walked toward me with open arms, trying to pull me into a loving embrace. Putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, she gushed. "Oh my God, Olivia, my sweet little sister. I can't believe it. Look how successful you are. How beautiful you look. Mom and Dad are going to be so thrilled. You know, we missed you so much these past 10 years. We were so incomplete without you. We searched everywhere for you. We were going crazy. Thank God we finally found each other today. Now you have to design my wedding dress. And I just know you're going to make the most gorgeous dress in the world for your only favorite sister absolutely free. After all, we're family, right?" Watching her disgusting, fake, money-hungry performance, I didn't feel angry. I felt a deep sense of pity. She was the exact same greedy, selfish, and hollow woman who would stoop to any level to use someone for her own benefit. I calmly stepped back, refusing to let her touch even an inch of me. I looked at my staff and gestured for them to leave. Once the doors closed and we were entirely alone in that massive room, I looked directly into her panicked eyes and said, "Chloe, you haven't changed one bit. You really think you can play me again with your fake tears, your manufactured stories, and your sweet talk? You're standing here talking about family and love. Do you even remember what you and those people did to me that night? Exactly 10 years ago? For the sake of your pathetic ego, you purposely took a pair of shears to 6 months of my hard work and my innocent dreams, threw them in the trash, and then stood in front of everyone acting like I was some crazy, lying lunatic." Chloe instantly tried a pathetic defense, stammering, "Olivia, that's ancient history. We were just kids. We didn't know any better. Holding on to all this bitterness for 10 years over one little thing, it's not healthy. We need to forget the past and make a fresh start today. We share the same blood, we are a family, and nothing is more important than family." My voice was quiet but unmovable as a mountain. "Blood only passes down genetic diseases, Chloe. It doesn't build relationships. Relationships are built on respect, on honoring one another, and on a very deep trust. And you destroyed that trust, that respect, forever on that night 10 years ago. You didn't just rip my dress that day. You tried your absolute best to destroy my heart, my hopes, my love, and my very existence. You made me swallow the bitter pill that, to you and that entire family, I was nothing more than a piece of trash, an insect. But you know what, Chloe? Your horrific betrayal did me the biggest favor of my life. You drove me out of that house as a completely broken human being. But everything I am today, all the power I hold, is the direct result of that broken girl's sleepless nights and blood, sweat, and tears. I built the foundation of this entirely new world on nothing but truth, honesty, and hard work. And in my beautiful world, there is absolutely no room for fake, hollow, and toxic people like you." Hearing the blunt, unfiltered truth, Chloe's face flushed crimson with a mix of rage and humiliation. The real, venomous woman inside her finally snapped. Losing her temper, she screamed at the top of her lungs, "Who the hell do you think you are? You made a little bit of money and now you think you're better than me? You're still the same stupid, pathetic, weak Olivia crying on the floor. If you don't give me the dress I want, I will walk out of here and drag your name through the mud to every media outlet in this city. I'll tell everyone what a disgusting, selfish sister you are." I just smiled peacefully at her hollow, childish threats. I took a step toward her and said, "Chloe, this isn't that house in Boston, where your screaming and crying will make everyone blindly take your side and turn against me. This is New York City. And this is an empire I built with my own 2 hands. If you want to go cry to the media or anyone else, be my guest. But remember one thing. Today, my voice holds a lot more power than your lies. People respect me because I earned that respect. And you? All you have is your future husband's bank account. You have no identity, no existence of your own. I pressed the intercom button on my desk, calling for my security team. Pointing a finger at the door, I looked at Chloe and said, "You can leave now, and don't you ever let your cursed shadow fall anywhere near my life, or my studio, ever again." Seeing two massive security guards walk in, Chloe fully realized that her manipulative games and blackmail had no power here. Defeated, stomping her feet, and screaming profanities at me, she was escorted out of the building. When the heavy glass doors of the studio shut behind her for good, it felt as though a massive, suffocating boulder that had been sitting on my chest for 10 years was finally, permanently lifted. Standing in that empty room, I took a deep, long, and incredibly peaceful breath. I didn't get my revenge by screaming or shouting. I simply showed her exactly where she stood. I chose my self-respect. I chose my identity. And that was the greatest, most peaceful victory of my life. You know, sometimes we crave love and validation from our own people, our own family, so desperately that we bend over backward for them and completely forget our own worth. We beg in front of people who don't know how to value us, who only want to keep us under their control. But the biggest truth of my life is this: you don't need anyone's stamp of approval or certificate to prove your worth. If your own people constantly pull you down, if they are jealous of your growth and mentally break you, then walking away from them in silence is the absolute right and the bravest decision you can make. You have to determine your own value. You have to stand up for yourself, even if it means you have to walk the path of life entirely alone. Because that loneliness is a million times better than living in constant suffocation. I truly hope that my long journey and my pain has given you something to think about and sparked a new courage within you to stand up for yourself. If you have ever been in a situation where the people closest to you have ruthlessly broken your heart, always remember that you are not alone. You have enough strength inside you to start from absolute zero and conquer the whole world. Recognize your worth, respect yourself, and never give anyone the right to dictate what you can or cannot achieve. Thank you so much for listening to this story to the very end and for staying with me on this long journey. If this story touched your heart, and if you want to keep hearing true, deep, and emotional stories like this in the future, please hit the like button on this video and don't forget to subscribe to our lovely channel, BookBite Studio. Your love and support give us the courage to bring these untold, beautiful stories to you. Take great care of yourselves, stay happy, and always stand fiercely by your self-respect and your truth.